Hello everyone and welcome to the webinar. Hopefully everyone has joined. We're going to kick right off because there's quite a lot to get through just here. We might have one or two people joining. Just before we start, I will of course be providing these slides and the collateral after the event. So some of the slides might have some bits on that we won't cover, but yes, we will be providing those. So hopefully everyone's attending the correct webinar here. We're going to be presenting today on public sector and how we might be able to enhance the planning and budgeting process therein using some of Oracle's cloud technology. So I'm going to kick right off and we're going to whiz through some slides here. And then hopefully we're going to get a chance to also show the technology itself. We're going to do a live demonstration. And if there are any questions, there is the facility in your toolbar, I believe, to ask some questions and raise your hand, virtually speaking. So please do utilize that if necessary. Just by way of introduction, my name is Ed Jevons. I'm the global head of our EPM division, which stands for Enterprise Performance Management. Oracle's planning and budgeting cloud solution falls under that bracket or that benchmark, should I say. And I'm going to be taking us through both the slideware and the demonstration today. So just a quick one about who are we relative to Oracle. So InnoApps is an organization that is a partner of Oracle. Oracle are of course the software vendor, and the solutions that they create are tend to be implemented or installed or configured by partners. We are one of those partners. There are different tiers of those partners, and we are a platinum partner, which is right up there. We have a globally dispersed presence. We are headquartered out of the UK and where I'm sat right now in our London office, but we do have follow the sun offices, which allow us to do not only that offshore model when it comes to development and implementation, to allow for slightly cheaper implementations, if you like, and get a little bit more value from that investment, but also it allows us to provide support for our clients around the Oracle solutions 24/7. So we're about 10 years old. We started out with Oracle applications, and we've been going strong ever since, branched out into related areas of Oracle. Pretty much anything that Oracle does, we would purvey to do, and we only do Oracle. So very specialized around Oracle's applications, and we'll talk in just a second about how some of the clients that we would typically work with through a range of industries. Today we're going to be focusing, of course, on the public sector. So we've got various accolades as well that you can see along the left-hand side there. Most notably the fact that we were Oracle's Global Specialized Partner of the Year for their software as a service. So effectively for their cloud transformational solutions, we won that award out of several thousand partners of Oracle. So something that we're very proud of. Long story short, we have a very good heritage with the Oracle solution stack. We've got about 300 plus staff actually working in a consultancy capacity, delivering these solutions to clients globally. The scope of today is going to be focusing just on the planning and budgeting piece, but of course there's a wider core finance, core HR applications, and various other associated technologies that we are experts in as well. So when it comes to the Oracle Cloud Suite, we're going to be focusing on this right-hand side of the three little star diagrams at the top here, the Enterprise Performance Management, and very specifically the node that says Planning and Budgeting within that. That is just one tiny piece of a far wider landscape of Oracle tools around the areas of human capital management, enterprise resource planning, and enterprise performance management. So all of these solutions integrate with one another. Whoops, my slides are on auto there. All these solutions integrate with one another quite tightly. Clearly, it's useful within a finance solution to be able to bring your actuals in, for example, from an Oracle tool. It might be that you need to bring in some of your HR information as well. So these applications, as we refer to them, tend to sit very nicely together. And they're what makes up Oracle's software as a service. Beneath that, though, there is, of course, lots of technology that's used to run these applications to gather that data, and that's what's known as platform as a service for software as a service. So we have various different reporting solutions, integration solutions, and all the other behind the scenes bits and pieces as well that help make these applications run. And we purvey all of the above. So in terms of our credibility in this space, if I can skip the slide there, we've got various different badges, as I alluded to, the award that I referred to, and also I think we were very recently found in the 1,000 Companies to Inspire Britain 2017 list, which was obviously a great accolade for ourselves. So to talk a little bit to our public sector credentials, various logos up on the screen there. Lots of different organisations within the UK public sector are already using Oracle applications. Lots of these are actually using Oracle Cloud applications as well. So there's a mixture of what we're looking at on screen here. Sandwell, for example, an on-premises Oracle customer. Ministry of Defence, I know recently made a movement to cloud as well. So there's a good mixture therein. When it comes to the public sector team within Oracle, there is a large team that specializes in nothing but public sector. And likewise, within InnoApps ourselves, we also have a team that would mirror that and that concentrate just around public sector, that have experience and then their careers are based around that area. So lots of quite unique experiences within the public sector that we think we could help bring to some of the solution issues that you might be facing. So moving on, we thought that we would take a look at, based on some of the experiences of our team, we would have a look at what are some of the key areas when it comes to the public sector annual budget setting process. What are some of the issues that you get around those, and how do we think we can address some of those using our technology? So conscious this is a very wordy slide, and I'm not going to be reading it out. Like I say, we will feed this back to yourself as a PDF after the webinar. But essentially, we've broken this down into 5 or so steps that we believe we can provide some value in. So I'm going to just summarize the little paragraphs. Effectively, you've got one paragraph talking about what the pain point might be, and then one talking about how the proposed solution might be able to alleviate that. So for example, on the available revenue side of things, we're conscious that when local authorities, for example, are setting budgets, there can often be ambiguity about that data, where it comes from, and if you're using a spreadsheet type system, it can be quite painful when you see a number to be able to interrogate that and figure out where did that number come from. So it might be an actual value, for example, that someone has in a spreadsheet that you're being asked to plan a budget around. So you want to look at what was the spend last year, for example. You might want to apply some sort of percentage increase. However, one would need to have some confidence around that actual number. So with the Oracle solution, what you actually have the ability to do is drill back to any of those source data documents and just tighten up that process. So there's no longer potential for miskeying of that data. You can directly integrate that into a very user-friendly spreadsheet type model, but still allow that drill back to source. So you're just giving people a little bit more confidence in some of the data that they might have. Moving on to the stage number 1, we've got this historic trends heading here. So using spreadsheets, it can be quite difficult to determine a historical trend. And certainly if you wanted to, for example, look at a trend across different levels. So you might be looking at a trend of expenditure within a given specific department, for example, within an authority. But then you might want to see, well, I wonder how that department's spend actually differs from, you know, my overall total county council spend, for example. And to do that on a spreadsheet, you might have to go to several different places, or you might need several different tabs in order to get that. Within this solution, you've got the ability to interrogate a central repository that would contain all that different information. So that might be different levels of information, or it might be comparing one business group to another. It might be comparing from a shared service group to another group. How has headcount fallen, or how has expenditure in telephony increased, etc. And you're able to get that all from the same place. So the ability to source that data and use that to inform your future-looking decisions is quite strong within the proposed tool. Scenario modeling, again, if you're doing this on a flat file type system or within spreadsheets, this can become quite painful. You end up having lots of different tabs, perhaps lots of different workbooks within Excel that you use to represent different scenarios. The system that we're talking about today, Oracle's planning and budgeting tool, is set up to actually handle scenarios, and you can have, for example, a best case scenario, worst case scenario. You can look at a rolling monthly forecast, compare that to your budget as you go along. And all of that is just at the click of a button and just a little drop down menu whereby you can select those different areas of the model. With respect to the actual submission of data, this here can often be quite a contentious issue. It might be that central finance like to hold on to the numbers because perhaps they think it's quite difficult once you release those down to budget holders to input to maintain things like consistency, etc. So the ability to kind of do that back and forth, that peer review, the ability to remain in control of the data whilst releasing it to the people that need to be involved in its publication, if you like, is quite strong within the system. We have a workflow that allows you to do that. We have user security that allows you to support that process. Likewise, in a similar vein, the approval side of things is quite similar. We have the ability to not only be able to create an approval chain, i.e. I can submit up to my immediate manager and she can submit up to hers in turn, but that can be dynamically influenced. For example, if I don't meet a threshold, if my expenditure on a certain department is 5% more than it was last year, for example, then there could be more steps in that chain. And finally, the monitoring and the management of the overall budget process. There's a lot of tools within the solution that allow us to assist with that process. So be that managing the introduction of a new department, making sure there's consistency across the reports where that's been introduced, or that might even be managing the provisioning of certain users, etc. All of that is done centrally from a single data store, and as such, we can alleviate some of the issues that you might typically face with that on a spreadsheet solution. So let's jump ahead. We're going to be looking, like I said, at the planning and budgeting tool here. A few the sort of buzzwords I'm going to throw out there around this tool and why we think it's a better fit than, for example, using a traditional spreadsheet type supported process. You don't really have to rely on IT for dragging that data out of source systems, albeit you might not need to do that from a spreadsheet perspective, but the nice thing with this is it would be a kind of live integration with any source systems. So to the end business user, they will get live information published into their reports or their input templates without any involvement from IT. There's lots of out-the-box functionality. For example, being able to increase totals by an amount. I can spread back numbers. I can say, what if my year total number was going to increase by 3%, and then I can just proportionally allocate that back across different months, different departments, etc. And we'll try to take a look at that when we do a quick demonstration whiz through. You can also use some of the predictive analysis settings within here. So if anyone's familiar with that sort of statistical predictive analysis, you can use things like auto-regressive integrated moving averages and other statistical methods in order to give yourself confidence intervals as to how you would hit a given target. And finally, the reporting that you get out of this, very much based around the user. The experience for the user going in is what we're trying to simplify. What we're trying to do, in fact, as we move on to the next slide, is move away from the left-hand side and move over to the right. So rather than spending lots of time collecting data and maintaining spreadsheets and developing reports, we want to spend time doing the red boxes, i.e. the value add activities. So actually performing the analysis, interacting with the decision makers, going down, visiting my my budget holders, going out to the the devolved finance units that might be, and speaking with them about what are some of the reasons for the changes in budgets for this year, etc. So we want to move over to this modern finance side of things by removing and automating some of these tasks that are quite painful and, relatively speaking, low value add. So how do we do that? Well, typically we've got some of the challenges we've already talked about. Lots of different spreadsheets being maintained by lots of different people. You might have ambiguity of ownership of that data. Some of the actual reference data might be misaligned. You might call one department or one business unit by one name in one report and something else in another. the data exists in individual spreadsheets. It's very difficult to concatenate that and combine that together. And it's quite difficult for multiple people to collaborate, which we know is part of the budgeting and planning process. What we want to do is move away from that and find something that's a little bit better. And Oracle's Planning and Budgeting Cloud Service, abbreviated to PBCS, is a solution that we know can do that. So we've actually got over 3,000 customers now. This is a little bit out of date. This is from November. And over 130,000 end users using this specific tool in the cloud. So very well established, over 3 years old now, 3.5 years pretty much. And of course, available over the cloud. So all you need is a browser. There's no IT involvement with respect to utilizing hardware or spinning up machines, etc. So anyone with an internet connection can do this, and we'll see that with myself using this today. So we also have addressed all those pain points that we referred to on the previous slide. I'm not going to talk about all of them. But for example, the ability to integrate seamlessly, the ability to bring our data directly into those familiar tools such as Excel, and the ability to centrally store that data so everyone is looking at one version of the truth is of course supported within the solution. So I've managed to whiz through those quick enough that we can get some demonstration time in here, which I think is going to be important. So all I'm going to do now, and to talk to my point, I'm literally going to enter a browser here. So I'm going to jump into Firefox. Close off my warning there from Windows. So this is me. I've navigated to a URL which would be specific to my organization, and I've logged in as myself, Ed. So it says welcome, Ed. This is the first thing we'd point out. So the actual user interface is very much specific to the logged in user. If, for example, I was someone that managed the budgets for several business units, then I would see tasks and budget tasks and processes that were appropriate for me. If I just managed the input of expense data for a single business unit, then all I would see is the different tasks and processes required for that. So the user experience is very much defined around your role, and you can have groups of users and individual user roles specified throughout the system. I can put in any announcements I want to make, so I can put a company-wide announcement. Here we've just got one saying welcome to the demo, but that might revolve around a particular date within the finance calendar, or indeed that could be something specific that you wanted to let all users know, perhaps around the usage of the tool. I'm also able to view a kind of calendar, if you like, of overdue tasks. So there might be a number of different tasks that I need to jump into around my planning for existing employees here, for my CapEx and updating my HR dashboard, etc. So as an end user, when I hop in, I can see all the things that I need to do today. I don't need to sift through spreadsheets and tabs to try to figure out what my value add activities for the day are. So I've actually logged in as an administrator, so I've got a few more of these little buttons here than the standard user would have. This is very deliberately been engineered to look nice and simple. All these buttons are very far apart. That's because this view that we're looking at right now would be exactly what we would see if I'd logged in from, for example, my Android phone or from my iPad. So very deliberately touch screen friendly. So I'm going to click on the tasks button there, and that's going to open up all of my different what we call task lists. Within the planning and budgeting cloud solution, we can think of a task as any process that you might need to carry out. That could be updating a driver for some expenditure. That could be updating what we pay a grade for this next financial year. That could be approving someone's budget that they've submitted from their business unit. Any of those constituent steps that make up a far wider planning and budgeting process, we call a task. And then we can bundle those into different task lists. So I've got a few here. I've got one where I might want to update the plan, for example. And I've got one here where I might want to do some other tasks. Concentrating on that update plan, you can see across all of these tasks, I've got start dates and end dates, and I'm unfortunately late on pretty much all of these. So that's why we had so many overdue a little bit before. But for example, I might be looking at planning for some new hires or planning for some existing hires. And if I go in and just click on that link there, it's going to take me to that, what we call a web form that shows me the pertinent areas of data entry. So let me choose an entity just here. I'm going to click on my entity and let's go up the top here. And let's just click out of the sky quickly. What I will show, actually, just looking at the time, is let's take a look at what that might look like from an end user perspective that actually wanted to perform one of these tasks. So let me hop out here to my other tasks. Let's do, for example, a facilities allocation, something that you might be doing already. You might be allocating total expenditure across a number of different departments. So here you can see I've got some total travel, some general supplies, some telco, some equipment maintenance, etc., etc. And what I want to do here is I'll just right click and I'll say I want to allocate those facilities expenses. Now they're going to be allocated in this case based on the square footage of each of those different constituent entities. So these could be my different departments, these could be my different councils, etc., within a shared service group. And you could allocate based on any factor. It needn't be square foot, it could be number of heads within the business, it could be I don't know, the level of expenditure from last year, etc., etc. So if I click on allocate, what the system does, it goes away, it will take that number there, that's 63,000 for example, and it'll perform an allocation based on that square foot and allocate out to my individual constituent departments. Comes up with a little message to let me know that that allocation has been successful. And you'll note that when I click on any of these cells, there's no formula, so I can't really break any of this data, even if I tried. And the other nice thing is I can interact with the report by just clicking out to expand out what's within my year total. So I could expand out the year total, look at the different quarters, I could expand that out and look at the constituent different months and see what the allocation was for each of those. And if I wasn't happy with the allocation, I could of course change it just by typing over the cell, and then you'll note that we get a little yellow background there just to show that I've yet to save that data back into the system. So saving the data back in is as simple as me clicking the save button, and then if I'm correctly provisioned, it's going to allow me to have input that data accordingly and overwrite if I have that authority. Just closing that off, we'll take a look at another very similar one. So for IT allocation, for example, I might have an IT budget that I wanted to allocate across various different entities or departments. In this case, I've got a head count being fed from my my employee planning side of things of 16, 12, 9, and 7. And again, some different accounts in this case that we would need to be able to allocate down. So all I do again is just using my little right-click menu. I don't need to type in any formula myself. I just allocate those IT expenses, and those are allocated across accordingly. So just some examples of some of the ways in which we can interact using this tablet-friendly mobile interface. From a reporting perspective, we can of course generate reports out of the box. These could be full financial reports, it could be a consolidated statement of income and expenditure, it could be a cash flow, it could be a balance sheet, and you can export these out as HTML, PDF, Excel, etc. And they will report out, and these are pixel perfect in so much as I can obviously change the logo, the orientation of the text, the font, which columns I wanted, whether or not I wanted to see the variance. I might want a monthly forecast in there, I might want my budget column in there as well, and a comparison. And of course, all of the chart of accounts, etc., would be very much specific to my individual organization or my entity. And of course, you can see who ran the report, when did they run it, what time, etc., who is that user. So you've got this pixel perfect reporting, which can be batched out and sent out to your users. What you also have that's quite nice is the ability to interact with these reports directly through Excel. So all of those different forms and tasks that we were referring to a little bit before, we can actually access through Excel using something called Smart View. Once we're in Smart View, we're able to pull out that live data that we have. And again here, for example, I can drill down into that same report we were looking at a moment ago around my expenses, and I can see what were my expenses for the constituent months and quarters. And then I can actually look at the individual allocations themselves as well that were performed. So you'll remember a couple of seconds ago we just performed an allocation, and I'd be able to see that here. The nice thing about the Smart View integration is that I can actually do an ad hoc report on this as well. So at the moment I'm just looking at a pre-built report that has facilities, and it shows me the operating expense and the allocation. What I can do is I can click Analyze there, and that'll drop me into a free-form ad hoc analysis world where I could then expand out year total and drill into the detail there. For example, I could pivot the dimension from one axis to another. So I could see my operating expenses there for just that quarter. Then I could drill in, look at it for January and February. I could drill into facilities if there was another level down, etc. I could zoom out on facilities and just take it up to the entire admin level and look at all the different expenditure types. So I've got IT, human resources, and facilities here. I can choose what to keep and what to exclude on these little reports as well, and I can also choose to make them a little bit simpler by pivoting out the dimensions that I don't want. If I was happy with that report and I wanted to see my my breakdown of IT, HR, and facilities expenditure, I could actually save that little report that I've just made as an ad hoc grid, and I could call it PS grid. And now I could come back to that report at any time, and these numbers here would be live. So as anyone updated the system with some more, for example, HR data to be allocated out during a budget period, I would be able to see that difference immediately just by clicking on that refresh button. But by saving that back, what it also allows me to do is use that data grid within some of the reports I might have. So I've got a report I created earlier around some trends here. So let's just take a quick look. So I could edit this report here. And once I've edited the report, what I can actually do is I can add some other grids to that report. So these dashboards you see are all self-service. They're all able to be created by non-technical users. All you need to do is find the grid in question and bring that into the report itself. So that PS grid that I created a couple of moments ago, if I try and bring him onto the grid here, just by dragging and dropping, I can then see that that number, those numbers that I just generated a moment ago. And we might want to actually see those as rather than looking at them as a table, I might want to see those as, I don't know, a bar chart, for example. So I could go in, specify that as a bar chart, click on close, and it would show me my different expenditure types. So very easy to configure and represent that data back. Once I was done, I could click save on that if I wanted to, once I was happy with my little dashboard. And then I could provision that for other users as well, such that they could come in and look at that data that we've just seen. So just to do a very quick recap, anything that we can do within a traditional spreadsheet model, we're able to do and break down into constituent tasks and bundle those up into task lists. So any part of the budgeting and planning process, we can break down those grids and represent those as input web forms. We can also view those same input web forms through this Excel add-in, and we can amend some of those reports within there as well. And remember, this is a two-way thing, so I can overwrite numbers within Excel and submit those up into my online model as well. And finally, we're able to report back in a number of different ways. I can report out of Excel. I could report using my PDF reporting, which can be batched and distributed to relevant parties at a relevant interval, or indeed I could use the dashboards within the system itself. All of the administration of this is held centrally, so if I wanted to add a new entity, a new department, a new line to my chart of accounts, I do that in one place using my create and manage menu, which is only available to my administrative team. And of course, there is full training available for end users as well as administrators via the Academy through the very same portal. So it's a very simplified tool that can address a number of different pain areas in the planning and budgeting process. We're conscious that on a 30-minute webinar, we're not able to scratch the surface of that. But what we would do is ask that if you are interested in any of the areas that we've spoken about today, that you do get in contact with us and we could do something a little bit longer and a little bit more bespoke for your specific business problem. And one final thing I wanted to return to is just to visit the why cloud. Cloud computing is a topic that you hear quite a lot of at the moment. So in the last minute, I just wanted to talk to, what's the distinction between a classic on-premises deployment and an on-cloud deployment. So three different areas we just very quickly cover. From a procurement perspective, the method by which you procure this technology is on a per user per month fee. So historically, you would just buy a big bang license from a sales guy who you would never see again. Now you're very much in an OPEX model where you pay for the service monthly. So the quality of service, one would hope is perhaps a little bit improved based on the fact that at any point outside of your contract, you could turn that service off. The time to value is a little bit quicker. There's no hardware to provision. There's no IT involvement to get. There's no servers to go and buy. There's no installation to do. And the applications themselves have very much been designed to be used off the shelf. So that time to value, the amount of time between you investing in a license and actually being able to use it and save some time or effort or gain some efficiencies is much shorter. And finally, from an innovation perspective, no longer are you in the world whereby you would purchase some software and every 3 to 5 years you might do an upgrade, which might be quite costly. Because it's cloud, it's like going onto Amazon.com. You're never on the old version of Amazon.com. You're always on the latest and greatest with all the functionality therein. So 3 little areas just to think about when it comes to cloud and why looking at Oracle's planning and budgeting cloud solution might be beneficial for you as a public sector entity. So with that, I think we're at the end of the time we had allowed. More than happy to answer any questions. We hadn't had any pop in, so I will assume that there are none. We will, of course, be sending out these slides and we will be following up with those that were kind enough to join us today. I'm going to say thank you very much once again, and if you do have any questions, please do get in touch with InnoApps, and thank you very much for your time.